Yes, I'll start. You drink tea.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Welcome to Almost Unfocused. It's episode 19, and we have yet another guest. So we have Jeremy. Jeremy, I've actually forgotten your surname. I'm really sorry.
It's Jeffs, Jeremy Jeffs.
Jeremy Jeffs. Sorry. So Jeremy Jeffs is in charge of a quite exciting thing, which, Toby, you've got some little personal links to this, haven't you?
Well, this is what got mentioned a few episodes ago, to be fair.
Yep. So this is the Remedy Photo Festival, and the exhibition's on now in Lincoln. So we'll have a chat about that as well. We've just been having a little chat beforehand, but for the sake of repetition, Jeremy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty well, thank you. Been flat out for the last few days, installing exhibitions in Lincoln and all over Lincolnshire. So we're down in Sutton-on-Sea, back into Lincoln tomorrow, and then to Skegness next week to start installing all the shows. Yeah, it's been very busy.
Yeah, so this kind of came about really was I actually saw an open call for Remedy, which is the festival we've been discussing, and I think it was around about episode 12, said, I'm going to throw some work into this exhibition. It's an open call, I don't know what will happen, but it seems perfectly suited to the sort of stuff I've been doing. And then we waited, and I kept going, well, I don't know what's happening, but I'm definitely going to go see all the work that's going on, but I've put my name in the hat and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I've not mentioned anything until last episode, I think, about it.
Yeah,
And
really, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I was really pleased to be selected for this.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but you'd have been on anyway. It's not. It's surprise.
You had been selected as well before I was invited on the show, so it didn't influence the indifference. Yes, but it was great. I mean, your work was exactly what we wanted to see for Remedy. Not only are you from Lincoln and Lincolnshire, you are working with a lived experience and you're looking at health. So yes, it was a kind of unanimous decision to put your work in. So yeah, you're going to be showing at, well, you are showing at the moment at Not Quite North, the amazing film and photography shop in Lincoln. And then, yes, part of the big group show as well at the Barbican Creative Hub, which is on the 19th of June.
Yeah. So I was say it is. It's really interesting to see a photo festival that focuses on something so, well, I say niche, but it is niche within the photo world to look at.
That's kind of what I set it up for, really. And you said I was in charge. I'm one of the people in charge. There are a couple other people who've been absolutely instrumental, Marion Sander and Paul Gutherson, and also some other people from an organisation called Everyone. But I don't think health photography is niche. I just don't think it's surfaced very much. I don't think people are showing it. And that's why we wanted to do Remedy. Health is right in the heart of everybody's life, personally, politically, economically. So much of our national discussion is about the NHS, how we finance it, and how we treat people properly. Yet I wasn't seeing photography that reflected that available easily, but I know it's out there. So I went to this group of people in Lincoln, and just said, "How about it?" And they said, "Absolutely, you do it, and we'll help." And that was 18 months ago, and we've been pushing on. And yeah, we've got some amazing photographers who've come on board, and we've pulled in some great work for the group show from around the world. So yeah.
Yes.
So 18 months, that's a really fast turnaround as well, to go from initiating the idea to actually having the exhibitions up and open.
Yeah. We've been very strategic. We've chosen to do a pilot this year. We got our Arts Council application in just after Christmas, and they came back about 5 weeks ago saying, yes, you've got the money. So it's been a really fast turnaround, but we absolutely focus on delivering 4 or 5 really good exhibitions with some amazing partners. So we've got Lincoln Arts Centre, we've got Lincoln Central Library, Barbican Creative Hub, Seaview Colonnade, and then So Festival came in right at the start saying, we love this idea, we'll help you. So they've given us space right in the heart of So Festival in Skegness at the Embassy Theatre. So we knew we could deliver, whatever happened, we could deliver 5 really good shows. And then Not Quite North came on and hosted the group show. And then the Barbican Creative Hub came on board as well, with giving us space to run a festival weekend where we're going to do a day of talks, and then 2 days we're going to project all the shows that are around the county in one spot, so you can come and see everything in one place. So yeah, it has been fast.
You've got some interesting some interesting photographers coming to talk. I mean, there's Jim Mottram was one of the ones I particularly interested in. His work, Small Town Inertia. Was he
I'm not sure. Jim isn't actually coming to talk. He's very committed to his to his caring role, so he can't actually come and be with us. But he's one of the photographers who've just gone, what work would you like? And just emailed me a whole folder of his stuff and say, print what you want, hang it on the wall. Absolutely charming and absolutely helpful.
So who have we got coming, or who have you got on your roster?
For the talks. So one of the ideas behind Remedy was not just to show great photography about health and to promote photographers. I really want to open a discussion about who can photograph health. How can we bring equity into the photography of health? So I've made my living for a long time as a documentary filmmaker, and then most recently making content for health charities. And I'm often going to people's houses, they're sharing their story, and I'm going away and editing it. I'm thinking, well, there's got to be a better way of doing that. There's got to be a way of building equity into the photographic process, collaboration, shared ownership of assets, an idea of what both parties want to get out of the photography. So that's what the talks are about. We're going to be featuring a number of photographers who work in a socially engaged and collaborative fashion. And then we're going to have an afternoon where we work together as a group discussion, talking about some principles of how can we make photography more equitable and fair for both parties, and come up with some principles. So we have got Ben Gilbert, who's one of the commissioning editors at the Wellcome Trust, the Stories magazine. He's going to be talking about their engagement with lived experience of photographers who want to show their lives about health. We've got a really interesting academic / photographer, Nelly Atting, who's going to be talking about identity and representation in photography. Anthony Luvera is going to be coming to talk about social engaged practice. A psychologist from Lincoln University's School of Rural and Coastal Health called Nima Mogadan is going to be coming to talk about how he uses photography as a research tool. And Rosie Barnes, who photographs autism in sort of late diagnosed autism in women, is going to be talking about her project.
It's really interesting to have such a spectrum of people there as well, like not just photographers or, in the strictest sense. It's kind of that very much sort of buys into our attitude towards photography, doesn't it, Tom?
It does. And I mean, you mentioned Ben Gilbert. I went to the Wellcome Collection in London about 2 years ago. There's a fantastic photographic exhibition of stereo views to do with amputations from memory. And it was like prosthetic limbs. And it was, I've got an obsession with stereoscopic photography. And I took my students to see it so I could see it more than anything else.
Don't tell them.
Toby, you're a teacher. You only go on trips so you could see them yourself.
It's very true.
Don't lie.
It's the perk. It's the only perk.
And yeah, it's great to have an organisation like the Wellcome Collection on board with such a new festival.
Yeah. And it's been slightly pushing as an open door. And almost everybody we've approached has said, that's a great idea. Yes, I'll help. Or it's a great idea. I can't help this time, but talk to me again. Yeah. People really get it. And it's been quite interesting from a publicity point of view, talking with PR consultants and getting the message out to newspapers. They get it straight away. It's not another film festival or photography festival. It's very niche. It's very focused on something that, as I said at the start, is absolutely massive in people's lives. So people get it. So we hope this year it will be a successful pilot. We're already talking to photographers and some partners about next year. So as soon as we shut this one down in July, we're going to be busy getting on again. But yeah, we have got a really good range of people, as you said, Tom. I'm so pleased.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you said that, I might mix this up slightly, but you were saying about how little we see the photography to do with healthcare.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the photographers who've got on board, Toby, I know, included in this, are documenting or photographing based on personal understanding, personal experience. Why is it you think we don't see more of this work normally? Why does it not get shown by, I'm going to name and shame, BJP, for example?
Well, there goes us.
Yeah. That's a really interesting choice. I think partly because discussions around health in public are often driven by a political agenda. So you might get a new chancellor coming in, or you might get a new kind of health secretary coming in and talk about what they want to do about a problem. a problem of people not working because they're on long-term sick, or a problem of funding the NHS. So I think editors respond to that very fast turnaround, and they tend to reach for archive or stock footage. I also think there's probably not a lot of funding for photography about health. It tends to be personal projects that people have done, or it tends to be commissioned by charities. Often that's done to do a particular job, fundraising or awareness, rather than pure documentary. So those are my guesses.
Yeah. I have to say, speaking from personal experience, there's an element. I mean, there's an element of those personal projects the majority of the way it's going forward. There isn't really funding. Not that, of course. And I think there's an element of people don't always feel comfortable discussing health, even if the person who's photographing it is comfortable discussing it. Or there are acceptable health conditions to discuss and non-acceptable health
Yeah. I mean, we had an amazing experience yesterday. We were at Seaview Colonnade installing Rosie's exhibition on the top floor. And it's called the Horizon Room, and it really is a horizon. You're 2 floors up on the beach, virtually looking at the horizon. And an elderly couple came up in the lift, and they were kind of peering in the door. And I said, "Oh, we're installing, but come and have a look around." And we thought they'd just walk around and walk out. They spent half an hour going around looking at every single picture and reading the text. And Rosie's show is about late diagnosed autism in women. And then they were about to leave, and they came up to Rosie for a chat, and they stayed and talked to her for another half an hour about concerns they had with a member of their family. And it just opened a conversation to them totally. And I did a show last year in London at the Oxo Tower Gallery about ME, and it was sponsored by the ME Association. And we had people in there in tears. They would just come in and look at the pictures and cry, either because it showed their experience, or it showed an experience of someone they knew. So people do want to talk about health. They do want to share about it. And I think they're much less embarrassed than we might have been about it 15 or 20 years ago. And that's one of the things I hope Remedy will do, is enable people to have those conversations. So we're really pleased that everyone who are the co-production network in Lincolnshire that bring people into the design and delivery of health systems that have got lived experience, they're sending community listeners to all of the exhibitions on 3 or 4 occasions. So if people want to talk about how the show makes them feel, or there's something they want to talk about their own health or their experience of the healthcare system, they'll be able to talk about that in a confidential way that will help feed back into making healthcare systems better for us all. So, yeah, I take your point. Tobias, that people may feel shy, but I think photography's got a role in helping people talk about that.
I was going to say, I mean, I was really, really impressive to have that involved within the shows themselves as well. And I do think, I mean, making my work did force some people to open up and discuss things around. I mean, everyone if you're listening, you already know my work probably, because we've been shameless and self-publicised numerous times.
Very good. Very good.
Well, you've got to. But for me, it was a sort of therapy, but it also has led to who struggle with stomas or the idea of getting one. One of my friends of a friend, I'm not going to name names, but has a similar condition, and they actually said looking through the work helped them make their decision. And so I think the work's important in that it can create that and allow that to happen. And like I said, that some of the other projects that I've been looking at, some of the things that were posted on the Instagram the other night from some of the other entrants for the open call, really, really powerful work, and definitely got me thinking about other conditions and how people live and the way that they're dealing with them. So it's opening narratives, hopefully.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Like discussions, I think, but I'm very impressed that you've got the listeners in there as well. That gives it far more depth than your standard. The more I hear about this, the more pleased I am to be involved in having you on.
I'm so delighted that the support we've been shown locally, and the way groups have come on, from the voluntary engagement team to everyone, to the NHS, to Lincoln University, the Arts Centre, the library, So Festival. It's been incredible. We've even had funding from an American organisation called the Patient and Caregivers Artistic Cooperative. They've sent us $2,500 to fund a particular show that they're very passionate about.
That's
to help
amazing.
get it on. And then they want to talk about how we might better work together in the future. The support has been incredible, and the reception has been very, very open. And I think it just speaks about how important and how neglected photography about health is, especially when it's done from people with lived experience who can actually show the realities or show what they feel is appropriate.
So you mentioned a little bit about your own work.
Yeah,
Could you tell us a bit about how you've been involved in photography and sort of exploring
yeah,
this idea and
yeah.
how it relates to this?
I got into photography like I guess a lot of us in my sort of early teens. School chemistry teacher set up a dark room, and I've been hooked ever since. I diverted though. I didn't really have the confidence to go into photojournalism. I didn't really see a route into that, but I found a route into television. So for a long time, I was a television documentary maker. I did a few films for programs like Panorama or Unreported World, Dispatches. I didn't really enjoy those. I wasn't particularly good at that, but I found a really good niche in foreign history. So I did a lot of travel and documentary. So I'd work as a freelancer, but working with writers and historians. They'd say to me, would you go make a film about finding out, is there any truth behind the myth of the Queen of Sheba, or would you make a 6-hour series about India or China or Britain? So I worked on those sorts of things for a long time as a cameraman and as a director. But I was traveling a lot. I was out of the country for a third, almost half the year sometimes, and kids were growing up. So about 15 years ago, I set up an agency with my wife, and we specialize in making films for health charities. So we make case studies, we make fundraising films, we make training films. So we're working a lot with people who have lived experience. But I've always kept on doing my photography on the side. And as we were chatting about earlier, I've been kind of digging deeper and deeper into my own experiences. So I was diagnosed with ME when I was 18, 19, just going off to university. So I've had ME my whole life, basically. And I decided about 4 years ago to start a big body of work about that, because it's a very misunderstood, underrepresented, very hard to see illness, because people are so sick generally they can't leave their houses. So over the course of 3 years, I've photographed just over 50 people, going to visit them in their houses and photographing them and working with them. They've shared archive photographs from before they were ill. They've shared reflections of their illness in writing. We put that on as a show last year at the Oxford Tower with the ME Association. And I'm very lucky. My ME is super, super mild. I can work at kind of what I'd consider 80% normal capacity for about 80% of the time, and the rest of the time I'm not so good. But I've been very, very lucky that I can bumble along.
So again, so this sort of obviously sort of being fed into your idea behind, well, part of the idea behind Remedy, then I assume is.
Absolutely, because like we all do, you look at these open calls and you apply to festivals and go along to portfolio reviews, and I'd get a very good reaction to the work, but it's not an immediately obvious call for the Athens Photo Festival to have a load of soccer people in a room. So I thought, well, why isn't there a photography festival, as far as I can tell, anywhere in the world that is dedicated to health? Yet, as I said earlier on, it's a massive part of our economy, our politics, and our personal lives. That's worth examination, and it's worth looking for those photographers who are doing amazing work. And they're coming out of the woodwork, as we know.
Yeah. Well, as I say, like you say, you've kind of, it's the, if you build it, they will come sort of thing in terms of a festival.
Definitely worked.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say we genuinely, I think early on in this podcast, we went, well, there's this photo festival. It's like they've literally made it for me. It was sort of, I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for, and it's on my doorstep, which was the other thing. I mean, by no means is Lincolnshire devoid of the arts, but it's not like living down south near London. It's not a centre for it. So it's really nice to see something like this happening north of the M20.
Well, I think it's an amazing opportunity. I've recently moved to Lincolnshire 3 years ago. My wife is from here. We've moved back to her village, and I've been welcomed up here by the creative community. And as you say, there's a lot going on if you look through it, and people are so welcome and so opening. And I thought, well, let's do it. Let's put something on. Lincoln's less than 2 hours from London by train.
Yeah.
It's an amazing city when you get there. And once you get up to Lincolnshire, there's so many great places. And I think a festival is a really good way of bringing people into a city. I don't have a hopes will get that big, but you look at what some of the museum projects have done to towns, or the gallery projects have done for towns like Margate, or festivals have done for towns around the country and around France in particular. They have 80 photography festivals in France, I was told.
Yeah.
They bring people into cities that they wouldn't normally visit. So I don't think our challenge is going to be finding great photographers to show their work. Our challenge is going to be getting the audience here
Yeah.
and getting the audience engaged, which is why we're doing a very modest pilot project this year, just to show that we can do it. And then we can put more time and money into planning and publicity and getting people up to Lincolnshire to see the festivals. But certainly the photographers who are taking part haven't batted an eyelid at coming. I mean, some people are coming 5 hours by train to take part, to talk. And I keep saying, well, you don't have to. And they say, no, we really want to come.
Yeah.
You know, we'll stay overnight. We'll do it. There's the commitments there from the photographers, but we just hope we can build the audience.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about that this morning, and although Toby is right, there's always a bigger push for festivals or funding for open calls, etc., in London and surrounding area. But the North has got so much creative opportunities it can share, and I think that's especially true since the Media Museum in Bradford shut down, what was that, 2-3 years ago, I guess now? Maybe a bit more. And yes, that archive is available through the Victoria and Albert Museum, but that's down here in London, but you've got Liverpool is a city of culture. Lincoln, Manchester, Sheffield, they've all got great arts heritage in their universities.
Yeah.
Don't forget Hull. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay. Yep. Hull as well. There we go.
It was City of Culture.
Yeah.
Well, I was ashamed to know that when we planned to set up a festival, and we decided on June because that's when So Festival is on, that there's another Lincolnshire photography festival at the end of June called Humberlands, which I think starts towards the end of the month. And that's amazing. When you look at the range of workshops and people they're bringing in, and it's great. And they've been in contact with us, have been friendly and helpful. Lincolnshire's got a lot going on. Lincoln itself has got the film festival, the book festival. We just had Wonderland, the arts festival. There's a great rump of things happening there. Yeah. I think it's worth. And again, all the other festivals, I've reached out to the film festival and the book festival. They've been so welcoming, so helpful. And I think there's a really good opportunity to use festivals to bring people into Lincoln.
There's a lot to be said for it, and it's definitely growing. And the thing is, like you say, the arts community up here is quite. Once you start making connections with it, it's very quick to snowball. Everyone wants something to happen. I think there's a lot of positivity. A lot of people are very keen for the whole thing to be on the grow. I mean, it's like you've been into Not Quite North. That's like a mini hub for photographers at the minute. I'll admit to going and sitting drinking cups of tea and buying far too much film.
Yes.
Part of my recovery was sitting in Not Quite North when I was. It
was.
Yeah, and that's an amazing community they've built of film photographers, and the kind of buzz they've made in such a short time. And again, they've been absolute supporters right from the day, no hesitation. Yeah, we'll help. We'll put a show on. It's going to be great.
Yeah, they've been. It's interesting how quickly that's grown as well. That's another thing that's sprung up. But I mean, we're avid film photographers here, aren't we, Tom?
We are.
Really?
To the point of almost obsessional, I would say.
Yeah, I wax and wane, and when I do like shooting black and white. I shoot a lot of black and white because I can process it myself, and it's still only like 7 or 8 quid a roll. But when you're talking 21 quid a roll for 120 portrait. It makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, I don't tend to do much colour for that reason. And I've got a darkroom here. So black and white, I have something I can do with that. I can take it into the darkroom and continue that analog process further.
Yeah.
Colour, I don't have the chemistry. So I end up scanning it and it becomes a digital file anyway.
Yeah.
So at that cost, I'll just grab a digital camera more often than not if I need colour images.
Yeah.
That is the sad. I mean, we were bemoaning the fact that film used to be like £2 a roll, but that's because we're getting old. So I think is the answer. It's like, do you remember when we bought 30 rolls of film between the two of us for £60? And now that's 3 rolls of portrait.
No, I shot a project about Thames landscapes a while ago, a few years ago, and I shot 200 rolls of 120, but it was £2 a roll.
Yeah.
And over 2 years, that's not a giant cost, really, is it?
No.
But, you think twice about shooting 200 rolls now, £8 a roll, £9 a roll, let alone colour. So
it's
interesting how many of the projects that came into the open call had been shot on film. Like, quite a lot of people were going that route.
Well,
okay, I'm now intrigued on that.
I was about to say, I think it's because it's personal work. People shoot personal work on film because it's theirs, isn't it? But I'll see what you say.
So I'm looking at the Instagram now.
You're going to drop it on the screen for us.
I can give it a try. You got some tech problems your end, so we can see how this goes.
Suddenly overexposing.
Let's see if it plays or whether it crashes. There we go.
There we
got
go.
the Instagram up there. Yeah.
So there's the Remedy Photo Festival Instagram. Well worth having a follow of this if you haven't already. It's
where we're kind of announcing all these shows, all the talks and the workshops. So it's worth keeping an eye out.
So I'm just glancing through, and the first thing that jumps to mind is how varied the range of styles.
Yeah.
In here. So when you talk about healthcare photography, the first thing that jumps to mind for me is medical photography.
Yeah.
And it's very much sort of scientific or reportage. But you've got this real, and we've got some photo montage. We've got, I really enjoyed this one with the spaghetti letters.
Yeah, Dialogier's work. It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's just one from her project, but it's become a bit of a hero image. It's a great shot, isn't it?
It's fun. It brings a sort of a lightness to something that is actually a very serious topic. It's great.
Yeah. This is Mark Tamer's work, and he has severe migraines. So he's talking here about how fragmented his vision can become, how sort of bright and confusing the world can become.
That looks like half frame. Unless I'm mistaken.
I think they're 35mm frames that are
diptych
portrait and then in montage. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So if you can't see what we're looking at because you're listening rather than watching, so I'm gonna try and describe this a little bit. So it's a black and white diptych, with a
flock of birds,
pigeons by the look of things. On the right hand side, black and white film. And then on the other side is it's like a sparkler ring, but you've got this black circle and it's almost like a black hole.
Yeah.
And you saying about migraines.
Wow.
I'm very fortunate in that I don't tend to suffer with migraines, but my wife gets cluster headaches. Toby, I know you and your wife occasionally have migraines as well. That image on the left.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I imagine visually as a migraine. Is that black hole in the center?
Yeah, I think it's a really strong visual representation of it. It really, yeah. And I love, and I say the fact it's on film, and you can see that that's on film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Tom, you're talking about kind of healthcare photography. Well, there is some healthcare in there, but it is about people's health and their own experience. So this is Sarah J. Winston, I can't remember.
Winston,
yeah. So it's her project called Infusion about her own treatment. So she's been photographing herself as she goes through it. This is all shot. I think this is digital, this one, because I can see the little snapper in her hand very often. But yeah, some amazing work. I mean, we're showing several images from this show as she's kind of continued through her treatment.
And I noticed here in the captions, it says USA. So she's actually an international entry.
Yeah.
As well.
We had entries from Colombia, Kuala Lumpur, from the States, from Spain, from Italy, from France. We selected a few international ones, but we also had some really good entries from Lincolnshire. So we got 2 Lincolnshire photographers represented. which is really good.
That I love this image.
Suella Wynn, this is a very, very powerful project about her experience. I think it's an installation, a site-specific installation where she went back to the site of some abuse and created the installation, and then photographed it with the camera that she tells me had belonged to the abuser. So it's
Wow.
it's a very, very powerful project. And again, this shot on film,
Yeah.
look at it, and very, very strong.
Yeah, there's some, and it's so varied, the work, that there's, it's every possible approach.
Well, yeah, and I think it's people really interrogating the medium, really trying to do something new with the medium, whether it's using a site-specific installation, doing the collages, making montages, or just using absolute classic documentary techniques, but to give people an insight into their own lives and their own conditions.
Yeah, I would say that there's a whole range from the truly sort of artistic and, almost I'd hate the word painterly when we talk about photography, but I'm lost for another word for it at the minute. To the sort of, like you say, the traditional photojournalist documentary, black and white. Although I love the lighting on this particular image you've put up.
That little flash of light across the bridge of the nose.
Yeah.
And then the catchlight of the eye is beautiful.
There's some real, I would say we have to say we have been discussing these at length, haven't we, Tom, on our morning drive?
Yeah.
We have. Yeah. So I'm not going to go too much for it, but I just want to mention this one as well, which I absolutely love. I'm a big fan of collage and photo montage. And yeah, it doesn't get seen often enough now, I think.
Yeah.
We went through this period of photo montage in the 50s and 60s. It's kind of dipped out of fashion. Yeah. And it's really nice to see when someone uses it so successfully again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of photographers, Katrin de Blauer in particular, her collage work is amazing, but Charlie's work, Charlie Baker, fantastic work. I'm really pleased we're going to be showing this image quite a large scale. This one, I hope.
Come out the screen sharing now. There we go.
Without any technical crashes, we hope.
Yeah, I want that.
Hey.
Yeah, you have to sort of hope that this doesn't crash every now and again.
Yeah, but that was our first attempt at screen sharing in a recording, and we made it work.
Nice.
So
yeah, so there we go. It makes life easier because we talk about work quite often, and when you're talking about, this is why we went from a simple audio podcast to adding the video in, because talking about photography after a while, it's quite hard to describe a really good photograph.
Yeah,
you sort of go on about how a photograph says 1,000 words, and then you sort of spend 20 minutes describing it. So the aims of the project are all sort of quite clear now to the listeners and to us. Actually, I feel like I've had an education on it. What are your hopes for the sort of next, let's say, 3 years for the festival? Is it be longer, bigger, more international?
All of those things. I think my big hope is that this pilot phase is successful and we can go back to some new partners and some existing partners and talk about bigger collaborations, more funding. Where I'd really like to take it, and I think everyone else involved as well, wants to really push it down into the grassroots, to really get involved with photographers who are making work now, who aren't really being seen or their work's not being surfaced, bring them some training opportunities, bring them some visibility, some exhibition opportunities. I think that would be the best thing that Remedy could do, is to develop a cohort of photographers who are working in a collaborative, equitable fashion. And there's some amazing people out there doing that already, like Open Eyes work up in Liverpool. On the work Anthony Luvera is doing, his training and his advocacy in socially engaged photography. But I'd like Remedy to become the equivalent of those two things, but for health. I think that's where its real value is. I mean, I love seeing work by photographers. I love promoting their work, but I don't want it just to be about the photographers. I want it to be about the people who are living with long-term conditions as well. So if we can use Remedy to develop their expertise or their capacity to tell their own stories and to give those stories a platform, that's where I'd love it to go. Yeah. So our hope is really to bring it back next year and see where it goes with that. The add-ons I'd like to do next year is it'd be great to do some portfolio reviews. We'll bring some people in to do that. It'd be great to do some more training and workshops. Maybe a bigger program of talks, getting more people to share their experience and their knowledge with people. is where we want to go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I say I'm really impressed with the whole thing, but also to hear someone who's running a photo festival who's talking about it in terms of not just the visuals, but it's academia behind it, you know, the meaning behind the images
The
rather than
value.
that. Thank you. This is why you're there, Tom.
Yeah.
I would waffle. You get to the point. The value behind it. We did was it episode 3 where we talked about disability, Tom?
3 or 4, yeah, it's quite early on.
And we talked about basically what you're saying here is, you know, who should photograph disability and how should that be shown? Who has rights to show people's health?
I think we've lost you for that.
We have some technical problems again. There we go. Oh, you're back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yep. So yeah, we were just saying that we even talked all about this kind of idea of who can show things and how people should be showing things, and the conversation between subject and photographer and how important that is.
It's for the photographer. It's so important when you start telling people what photograph you want to take, and you ask them what photograph they'd like you to take.
Yeah.
It becomes a whole different ballgame. One of the images we've used a lot to promote the festival is of a couple in a swimming pool, kind of floating, holding hands. And it's a picture I took about 3 years ago with a couple called Tom and Catherine. And I've been working with them to talk about their health conditions. Neither of them are mobile. They need to move around in a wheelchair or to be helped by their personal assistants. I went into it with a collaborative approach. I said to them, what do you want to show about your condition? What's important for you to get across? And one of the ideas that Catherine had was, she said, I want you to show me in the swimming pool with Tom, because that's the only time we're free to move and to touch each other. I want you to come to a hydrotherapy session and show it. And that was her idea.
Yeah.
They wanted that image.
And they're always the best.
Yeah. I hope so. And it becomes a bit more of a collaboration. With those particular images, I've shared the copyright with them, shared the use of them. And every time I use the image myself, I'd go back to them and say, is it okay to use it? It's a genuine, I hope they feel it's a genuine collaboration. And those are some of the areas I want to explore with Remedy, is how do you build that equity into the process?
Well, it's the difference between taking an image and making an image.
Yeah.
When you make an image, you're working with your subject. Tom, I can see you smiling because this is your great.
Yeah, it's my big bugbear.
The frame it. You've written an article about it, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I get all het up over
semantics.
The possessionary terms in photography, I suppose. So the idea of taking a photograph, and I do this for my students. You know, they're right at the beginning of their journey as photographers, and they are still the idea of they're taking something. They haven't learned yet, and it will take years for them to grasp that idea of the collaboration, as you say. And I'm always trying to sort of get them aware of the idea of, what have you taken something away from the person you photographed? No. Have you? You've not. You don't possess them. You've not captured them. There's another word I don't like. You've not shot them. So I always have issues with those words for that reason. But yeah, you're right, Toby. It is the idea of, if you're working in collaboration with the subject, you are making something together. You're creating something new. Yeah, and that's always the best photographs.
You're saying it's interesting because as I've moved away from the project that's actually in Remedy, I've started to move towards documenting other people's experiences of similar illnesses, and that, having photographed the experience myself, has so much better prepared me to work with other people on it. And I think in all terms of photography, it's made me far more aware. Not that I was sort of charging around sticky cameras in people's faces, it's never been my style, but having been on the back of the camera, as it were, being seen, it does make you think and really appreciate people's vulnerability when you're making their image. And once you put health in there as well, that really does. You have to be so aware of who you're working with and how your image might impact their lives,
Well, I had a really interesting conversation with a guy called Jordan Rathkoff, who runs the NGO in America, in New York, that gave us the funding, the Patient and Caregivers Artist Co-op. And the reason he set it up was that he makes a lot of content about health for pharmaceutical companies in America. And he said he was turning up on shoots where he was getting a 6-figure budget to make a film. The pharmaceutical company was promoting drugs that potentially are hundreds of millions. Yet what was the person who was telling their story getting out of it, who might be going through a very traumatic, difficult illness? What were they getting out of it? And he was like, well, this isn't right. I'm going to do something about it. And that's why he set up his NGO and why he funds so much art and photography to help people tell their own stories. Yeah, there's a real kind of growing awareness of giving people control of their stories and some kind of equity in the process.
Yeah, I mean, go on, Tom.
No, go on. I'll go off into a slight tangent there. You carry on.
No, go away, because I was going to start talking about working class photography and things.
Oh, okay. That's even bigger tangent.
Yeah, mine's a great tangent.
Do you think that the rapid success that you found with this pilot, to go in 18 months from nothing to, a bunch of exhibitions, the open call, talks and so on later in the month, has a relationship to the shared experience that we've had globally in the last few years?
That health has really pushed itself into our lives in the way that we've been locked down because of an airborne virus.
Yeah.
Could well be. I mean, I think, there's so many global currents at the moment, but I keep coming back to the idea that healthcare is so central into the national conversation in this country. We're constantly talking about the NHS. We're constantly talking about the cost of healthcare, the duty of people to work, even if they might be long-term sick, and then people's own experiences. I think there's a bit of an undercurrent there. What do you think, Tom? Do you think that that's one of the reasons there's an open door, that COVID's changed us?
I think it's definitely going to be part of it, in that before then there was, when you came to talking about health conditions and so on, a lot of them were, sort of a bit hush hush. You didn't talk, like Toby was saying, there's certain conditions that you just didn't talk about. But suddenly the entire world has a shared medical experience, and everyone knows at least one person who was severely affected by it in some degree. Everyone has that understanding of this shared responsibility of healthcare. So for you to help bring a wider range of healthcare conditions or health experiences to people's understanding, and I'm going to use ME as an example. ME is one, as you say, most people don't really understand it at all. So for you to have done so much work about it and to champion that understanding opens eyes, and people are more receptive to that information because of experience.
I hope so, yeah. And one of the photographers we're showing is a Finnish photographer called Emil Peltola, who's showing his work. He was a photographer and came down with ME, and he's been photographing his world from his bed. He has very severe ME and is very, very ill. And he's been photographing his life from his bed, and it's extraordinary work. And, I don't even get close to what he's showing in my work with other people.
I think there's, for creative people, I think sometimes, you found it there. There's it's a way of dealing with an illness. It's a therapy. It's a way to come to terms with what they're experiencing. If you were a writer, you'd write about it. If you were a songwriter, you'd write a song about it. But photography, you record it.
I think it's more fundamental than that. It's a way of continuing to exist. I think a disease like ME takes your existence away to a large degree. And I think continuing to control your creative process to be a creative person is to continue to exist. It's existential, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why his work is so powerful. Yeah. It's very good, but it's also very, very raw and visceral and close to his existence. He's defining himself every day with his photographs. I'm still alive. I'm still a photographer. I'm still seeing. I'm still thinking.
That's really astute kind of take on it. So yeah, but that I'm just thinking about that. It's made me relook at some of the stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, that also makes me think of your work, Toby, and I know how sick you were when you were waiting for surgery, and that for you, photography was very much a lifeline of sanity.
Yeah, It was sort of 9 months stuck in the house, not going anywhere, no people. It was a reason to get up and do something. Although I'll admit to some of the images feeling bizarre, because I'd be sat there and with a tripod and a camera and a lighting setup and sat in the living room like, well, I've got it all set up, so I'm going to have a nap for 20 minutes because that took everything I had, and then I'll take a picture. I think as well, I don't know, for some people it's different, but with making my work, there was days where I could go and get a camera and I could set it up and make a serious, thought through piece of work. And there were other moments where the camera, there was whatever I had to hand, which was why it'd be a mobile phone, or some would be filmed, some would be on a phone, some would be a proper digital camera. But it was whatever was available. Looking back at it now, it's a pain.
But that's part of the storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that tells another layer to the story, and we can see that variety in the work, and we can see those different textures in the work. We know it was contingent, it was what you could do at the time, it just adds a whole new layer to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a discussion between me and Tom before I went for surgery, because I basically got a phone. I went for an infusion, and the nurse went, "Go home, pack a bag, and get yourself in. We'll have a bed ready for you. We're not messing around anymore." And I rang Tom on the way back from the hospital. I was like, "What cameras shall I pack?" Oh no, priorities, obviously. What cameras should I pack and what film?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you were diagnosed when we were at university, or just, it was either, we were at university or just before we went. And the first time you got really sick, we were at uni, it was our first year, and your flatmate went into hospital with you.
Yep.
And then she phoned me because she had a lecture she couldn't miss, and she asked me to take over. And the message was, he says, bring a camera.
Well, yeah. And because it was something different that was happening, and you document it. And that kind of is where this whole work eventually came from. But so yeah, you find ways of engaging with the world. And I think what you've just said is actually something that I hadn't even thought about. Is this as a way of saying, here I am, I'm still existing, I'm still doing something, I'm still a person. Because there's an element with any kind of health condition, it can take over your personality. It can become your personality if you're not careful. I can't do that because of, this is X person with X illness. Your illness becomes part of who you are. And you can either choose to own that and accept it and make it a good thing, or it can dominate your entire existence, I think.
Wow.
And what we're seeing, a lot of the work, and the work we just had up that was on the shared screen. What was his name again, Tom? Did you?
Emil Peltola.
Yeah. That is a prime example of what we're saying there.
I'll share it again.
Thank you. Yeah. Because I was just saying, this image in the bottom right, as I'm seeing it, where he's got his headphones on, and he's connected to a device. There's a real piece there, but you can tell it's a lived experience. That's someone in that moment. That's all they can manage from a day. So yeah, I really like that, and the powerful images these. Sorry, I've gone on a bit of a ramble there. My apologies. This is why it's called Almost in Focus, because we can't stay on topic.
Well, I mean, that's what's amazing about health as a subject. We started off talking about it being quite niche, but actually, when you get into it, you're dealing with absolutely fundamental questions of existence and identity, or you're dealing with, I'm having alphabeti spaghetti for lunch.
Yeah.
The range is enormous that people choose to examine, or they choose to show. It's extraordinary, and I don't think it's niche at all. It's fundamental to human life, to existence. It really is.
Well, yeah, I think we can all appreciate experiencing having ill health at some point within our lives. It's just varying degrees of it, but to see, so I think, like you say, it's a fundamental human condition, isn't it? And despite the fact we'd all like to say that we're never all going to at some point end up in the NHS and in a hospital, most people have experienced some time, even if it's just the A&E. So it's interesting to have the whole spectrum of that and give people an insight into other people's lives. I mean, that's what photography's always kind of been a great tool for. Diane Arbus used to say, I can
I
never
was
get the quote.
just thinking about her.
Were you? I
I
can't
was.
get the quote right now. But she talks about using the camera as a passport into other people's lives. Ultimately, I think that's what these photographs are doing. They're giving people a glimpse into how other people's lived experiences, and hopefully teaching them a little bit about what life can be like or what life is like for other people.
Wow.
I think, hopefully the people see the work as an education as well as a sort of emotional experience.
I think that's bound to happen. I mean, Jeremy, you were saying about that couple who were sort of nosing in while you were helping hang the exhibitions the other day. They were gaining understanding of what a member of their family is going through.
I think it's even more than that. I think they understand what the member of the family is going through. They just hadn't had an opportunity to talk about it with anybody else. And they saw this exhibition, Rosie's exhibition of autistic women. And there's a big 16 by 20 portrait, and beside it is a very detailed interview that Rosie's done and distilled about this person's experience. And they went round and read every single experience and understood a bit more about it, as you stayed told, but also it enabled them to come up to us and to talk about their experience and what it was like for them being part of a family where there was something going on that they couldn't engage with. It just opened up something for them in a really lovely way, a really useful way.
Opens discussion, doesn't it? I mean, this is it's a powerful thing. It's not just about creativity and art, and it's about human connections, I guess.
Yeah.
Through the images that we're looking at, and like you say, those discussions that people will have. There'll be people who go to see these shows who, on the way home or whatever, will have a conversation with their partner or their friend and might open up about something else. There is a real power to it, but we've always kind of said that about photography on this podcast. It's more than just pretty pictures.
Yeah. And what was lovely about that couple is they weren't photographers. They were people who had a lived experience and found the photography as a way to talk about it.
Yeah, well, this is it.
And that's what I really want. If we are successful, that's what we'll do. We won't just bring in photographers to show their work or look at each other's work. It'll bring people in who want to learn or want to express themselves about something that's going on in their lives.
Yeah. Was it Daniel Meadows, Tom, who said about breaking that kind of... my brain has just switched off completely. I clearly needed more tea. He said about a sort of a hierarchy or a group of photographic elite who make books for each other, and that's it. That was Daniel Meadows, wasn't it? I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
In a Small Voice podcast, he talked about it. And there's sort of this idea that photographers make pictures for other photographers, and then they make books about it, and then it doesn't get seen by anyone who isn't. And this is where I think, and he was saying that's a terrible thing, and actually we need more of photography that's accessible to the entire population and everyone can experience it.
Wasn't that Simon Norfolk?
Could have been both. Could have been Simon Norfolk. I think it was Daniel Meadows, but I'll check and we put it in the show notes if I'm completely wrong. But
you're right. I know Simon Norfolk was saying about the photo book, and photo books are very sort of, I suppose, an old medium. And there's so much great photography out there that isn't from the big names, and it is the everyday. And social media is a great place to discover, I suppose, a more raw talent rather than an academic one.
Yeah, as I say,
that's a really interesting point. I mean, I absolutely love the photo book, and I think it's a great medium. But I'm really surprised we haven't got a more engaging way of sharing photography on the internet.
Yeah.
Other than the Instagram grid. I know We Transfer have done some good stuff with their We Share projects, where you've seen Robin Dupui's work that she's done in America, where they've combined an interactive map with sound effects, with film, interviews, as well as for photographs. And it's a whole new way of experiencing photography. And it takes the book into the digital age. And it's not just an image and then you see another image. So that you can scroll through the map, you can click, you can hear. It's really clever and really thoughtful. And I'm always looking for new examples like that. And there are relatively few people who are taking that idea of the book and pushing it forward into the 21st century, because it's a great way to experience photography. I almost prefer books to exhibitions, if I can be honest.
Mm.
I like doing both, going to see the exhibition and then buying the book.
Yeah. We've talked about books in the past. I mean, we I think early on in this, we discussed whether we thought the photo book was dead or not. And I don't think I think we came to the conclusion that it isn't really dead. It's just costing itself
Hibernating?
out. It's costing itself out of the accessible market. You know, they're almost too niche. But zines, I think, are very much the way work is being shown now.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'm really staggered with the work of someone like Cafe Royale Books. Amazing work, with the very kind of deliberate focus on archive past projects. I'm really surprised there isn't a contemporary photography. Maybe there is, and I just don't know about it. Contemporary version of Cafe Royale Books. Who's putting out weekly amazing new work? And there must be an interesting market for that.
Tom, you're the published author. Anybody?
The one that jumps to mind is Docu Magazine, but it is very much a case of the selected photographer basically pre-orders a bunch of copies themselves that they will hand out or sell, and that's kind of their model. So it's kind of print to order.
Almost
so
a photography big issue.
Yeah, so it's not the same kind of approach as Cafe Royale. I don't know, actually. I don't think there is anyone who's doing, as you say, those sort of those short run speedy. Maybe we should do it, Toby.
Well, there's
I know if you look at those sort of putting out that work in regular series of zines, it's amazing work being done that way. But a third party publisher who's going and seeking out great work and push it out there, and I'm sure there must be an appetite for that itself. Because it's great. There's nothing like getting a little zine through the post, is there? You order it and you open up and you've seen the stuff on screen. You open it up and you see what they've done with their design and their layout. It's fantastic, and it's cost you 10 quid or 15 quid. It's brilliant.
Well, it makes it accessible. I mean, this is the thing. I'm a big lover of books. I mean, over to my left, which you can't see, is a wall full of photography books, and I'll drag them into school and show the kids, and then I'll go, oh, but you can buy a copy of this. And then I'll go on Amazon and go, actually, this isn't really accessible to a 17, 18-year-old. Here, have a look, buy a copy because it's 50, 60 quid for a photography book. So it prices itself out of it because they become, I don't want to say works of art, but sort of, some of them are works of art, but they're priced.
I think some publishers occasionally do stuff. So, I mean, we spoke before, Toby, about the 5 and 55s that they used to do.
Yeah.
They were about £7, £8 a book. They're small. They're really, and when we were first learning, they were kind of your library of photography. That's how you learn about all those different great names.
And they were cheap enough. You could take a punt. That's how I discovered Saul Leiter's work. I was in a photography shop and I just saw this book and I thought, well, for, as you say, 8 or 10 quid, I'm going to have a punt on that. Wow! Oh my god!
This is it.
That's fantastic. And just kind of, if I can loop back a bit to Remedy again, that's one of the principles that we've tried to stick to, is that we've tried to make everything free. Because there's so many things. I could apply to 20 things every day on Instagram and spend 50 quid or 20 quid applying to an open call or to an exhibition. And we deliberately said, no, we're not going to charge people to apply to the open call. We've got a funded commission, the Usher Gallery in Lincoln, part of Lincoln Museum, are putting up quite a decent amount of money to commission new work. And we're not going to charge people to enter that, because so many photography festivals are kind of pay to play. Oh, yes, you've been selected after paying $25 to enter. Oh, by the way, it's 50 quid to get your work printed up to go on the wall. So we don't charge people to enter. We've not charged people to do all the printing. We won't charge people to enter to the open call for the new commission. We're not charging for people to come to the events. We're not charging people to come to the talks. That may change in years to come. But for these pilot programs, we've been able to get funding that we can put these on and make them accessible.
That's really refreshing.
It is. I was going to say, it's refreshing, and it opens up the arts to people, to all people, instead of it being elitist. Which, well, I say elitist, but £20 to enter a copy. We've had this discussion before, haven't we, Tom, about entering certain photo competitions, which will remain nameless, that we've both entered repeatedly. I got shortlisted a couple of years ago, but I'd spent a fair amount entering,
Yeah.
to what avail, and
I mean, you can't, for some of the big reputable festivals, you can't blame them charging because they've got a lot of fundraising to do. But you see so many things you think, is that a real festival, or is that just someone who's hired a room who's going to put on something for a month and charge people? So, yeah.
I mean, this is it. I'll be entirely honest. I did my due diligence about Remedy before I threw my work in. I sort of started ringing around the local photographers and things. I was like, does anybody know who this guy is and what's going on? And he came back.
No one knew.
No one knew who you were, but not quite north. It says to me, "Oh yeah, he came in and spoke to us. He seems like a solid guy." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll give it a whirl."
Good. I'm glad you did. Tobias, because it's great work.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the feedback. But it's really refreshing to hear all this that you've said about Remedy. And this episode will go out next Wednesday.
Even next Wednesday of the week. I think, we try and get out next week because then it's got a good run time with the exhibitions and everything as well. Should we have a quick look at the website and just, what's on where and when?
Yeah, we'll just do it.
Yeah, so we're having a festival weekend. The main festival weekend is the 19th to the 21st of June, and that takes place at the Barbican Creative Hub in Lincoln. And that's a day of talks on the Friday, that's the 19th. And then for the 20th and the 21st, the Saturday and Sunday, we're showing everything that's around the whole county or around the whole city in the Barbican Creative Hub. And then in Lincoln itself, at Lincoln Arts Centre, we're showing Emile Patola's work about ME, his work of ME. At Lincoln Central Library, we're showing Anthony Luvera's work that he made about a woman called Sarah and her transition. Then at the Embassy Theatre in Skegness from the 12th until the 25th of June, we're showing Jim Mortram's Small Town Inertia work, which we're really excited to be sharing. And then we're showing some amazing work by Rosie Barnes at the Seaview Colonnade. That's the late diagnosed autism in women. That's running right up until the end of the month. And then we're doing a week at the Gallery St. Martin's in Lincoln with a photographer called Cheryl Newman. And I just found her work about 3 years ago on Instagram, and I was just utterly enraptured by it. What she does is she goes back into the archive of all sorts of institutions and I guess gets them on eBay in places, and she's finding historic archive photographs of women who are being sick in bed, as the show is called. And it's just a very witty, but very powerful examination of the way women are portrayed during ill health. We're probably going to be showing some of our collages as well. That's so fascinating as well. So that's from the 22nd to the 25th. Emile, we've talked about. And then, of course, there's the group show, which started yesterday and Not Quite North and runs all month. And I think we've got 8 photographers we're showing there, including Tobias.
Yeah. There we go.
Who's that then?
Who's he? Who's that shameless self-publicist who's been throwing his work on Instagram all week?
Right.
So
I've got to change those photographs on the website because they're not from the group show, they're from my archive.
So, I mean, it's great. You've got such a huge variety, as we've already said. This Cheryl Newman stuff with the archival imagery looks really exciting.
Yeah,
it's really clever. She's actually the photo editor for the Observer New Review magazine. So we're absolutely delighted to have her work. And she's been such a champion. She's been feeding me interesting photographers, making suggestions, making connections. I mean, the support from the photographers themselves has been extreme. Anthony Luvera has been introducing me to people. Rosie's been pointing people my way. It's been absolutely amazing.
It's phenomenal. It's amazing what you've pulled off with such a short time. But I can't believe the turnaround time on that.
Well, we've had a great team, and as I say, I'm just one of many, and the institutions have really given us the benefit of the doubt because we have approached them with no track record and said, can we have a space for a month? Yeah. And they've said, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, congratulations and thank you to everyone involved in Lincoln and the Arts Council for helping this all come together because it looks really, really good.
Call it an evening?
I think so. I think.
Thank you
Yeah.
ever so
Thanks,
much.
it's been great. Oh, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. And I say we hope it's not too much of a ramble, but they tend to be. But
Yeah,
the general aim is it to be like going to the pub and having a chat.
yeah,
And, yeah,
felt good to me.
yeah, fantastic. Do
Excellent.
you want to hit end record, Tom?
I will hit end recording, and there we go.